Wait for some people to get in here. While they're getting in here, I'll mess with this. It says sync 12 synced, 1 synced, 11 synced. Okay. Printful doesn't manage inventory of at least one of your items. Mhm.
Hello,
Hey, what's
Miss
up?
Hunzer.
Yeah, I had Michelle as my partner, and I got hit on for like not getting enough engagement, and I was like, no fault of hers, but I was like, she isn't like responding back to me. She's giving me like, yeah, uh-huh. And I was like, what do you think about that? She's like, yeah, it's okay. I'm like, can you explain more what that means to you? And then I still passed, but it was just funny. The engage was like, yeah, you weren't asking like questions about and like getting anything back. I was like, I asked a lot of questions. I was
Mm.
just I was just getting one word answers back, which she also said. She's like, yeah, it's a little bit my fault. She's like, I was just kind of like, you know, spacing out. So all good.
Oh,
I
at
get
least
it.
she admitted that. But you pass.
Yeah. He was like, yeah, everything was like super good. He was like, just more engagement. And I was like, all right. I was like, I was trying. He's
Pretty
like, I
good with
saw you trying.
engagement.
He's like, maybe reword how you say it and get her to get more of an answer. I was like, all right.
So.
Right now I'm trying to figure out my merch store. I had to launch a new one because I had a new name, so you can't use the same domain because they get taken. And then on top of that, now I got the stores linked to each other, but then I keep going to Printful and it keeps telling me that my inventory isn't managed by Shop or by Printful. So I need to go on Shopify and adjust it, which I
Huh.
have and can't figure it out. So I'll have to like literally I went on Google and like it told me the exact steps and I did that and I went back and it's still doing the same thing. So I'm like,
Interesting. So you're using all these apps. Are you using anything like Go High Level, or I think Mike Barron suggested something like, what was it
yeah, I
called?
have Mike's
Leads or
thing.
something.
Yeah, top leads
Top leads.
or
There we
leads
go.
connected. Yeah,
Leads.
I have that.
Ah, okay. How much does it cost per month to have that?
$3.99.
Okay, it's very similar to Go High Level. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I mean maybe Mike pays for it and we just get his, but I don't pay anything for it. So
Oh, that's the point of being an inner circle.
yeah.
That's bad.
I think
Wow.
that's how it works because I don't know for sure. So but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it is.
Huh.
I'm pretty sure that's why it's free though, because he just like basically just like, hey, here you go, and this is yours. And then his team builds it out for you and they send it to you.
I love that.
Or hey, what's up, brother? I don't know who else is jumping in
Hi,
today, but
Brie.
we'll
Hola, senor.
what's up, brother?
What's up, man?
Too much. Just chilling, trying to figure out the Shopify store, but I'll get to that later. I don't know who else is jumping on. I don't know if there is anybody else, but if not, we can get started.
Sir.
Hmm.
Let me go in here. All right, there's some people. Some of you guys out there. All right, cool. Let me just pull up. We're going to go over leadership today and some of the qualities which make a good leader, which you would think would be common sense, but
Hmm.
it is very common in the civilian world that I've seen. It's really not even common in the military, honestly. Um, People have a very authoritative type of leadership style, and they think just because of the position they're in, that they're supposed to, people are just going to listen to them. Like basically, they think respect is given, not earned, which is the furthest thing from the truth. Um, but yet there's still all kinds of people that think that way. So here's 10 successful things that leaders do. The first thing is they communicate effectively. So successful leaders can clearly articulate their visions, goals, and expectations. Expectations being a big one. So when you speak of expectations, it's essentially like Mike always talks about confronting people, or like if you allow something to happen in your workspace and basically you're not confronting and saying something, you're essentially saying that that's okay with you. So what that means is if someone is always taking smoke breaks, or someone always grumbles or complains or whatever the thing is that they do, and you don't ever confront them on it, then your expectation or their expectation is like, oh, they don't care. That makes sense. So the thing that we did in the Marine Corps is the first thing you do when you get a new person is you sit down and you have an initial counseling. And in that, you lay out the expectations of what you expect of them, and then what goals they need to do essentially over a 3-month period. So as a leader, having people, when you do that, set expectations and your visions, goals for them, what that does is it's going to make them, well, you do care, but it shows that you care. Because if you just come in, you're like, hey, do this, you'll figure it out along the way. We'll catch up and we'll get you going eventually. Like people are like, what? Like they don't see a genuine like interest or care in what you're doing, and or what you're doing for them or what they're doing, and essentially it breaks down that trust. So if you don't build that rapport and trust with your new people or whoever you're leading, they're not going to trust you and they're not going to want to work for you. So listen actively and encourage open dialogue, ensuring that team members understand their roles and responsibilities. Effective communication builds trust and fosters a collaborative environment. That's the biggest thing about being a leader, is fostering an environment that people want to be in and they feel like they're heard and they're actually a part of. So me coming up, honestly, 9 times out of 10, my idea was the worst idea. So I would bring up to my guys and be like, hey, here's what we got to do. Here's my plan or my idea how to go after it. And they'd be like, and they just start throwing, poking holes in it. And I'd be like, and I wanted that though. And I never got mad at them for being like, hey, that's a flawed idea because of this. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't think about that. But another type of leader, authoritative leader, would be like, hey, like my way or the highway, this is what we're going to do. Don't ask any questions. This is how it's done. And like you may have missed these things that these people, but they're too afraid to bring it up because they're like, this guy's a dick. He's just gonna like blow it off and be like, no, my way or the highway, which is the number one way to lose the people working for you and make people that are working for you have very low quality of work. So that right here, this is probably one of the most important things. Inspire and motivate. So great leaders inspire and motivate their teams by setting a positive example, demonstrating passion for their work, and they recognize and celebrate achievements, which boosts morale and encourages others to strive for excellence. So it is, I know it sounds like cliche. I'm like, hey, good job, buddy. But like you can say it in more of a way of like, just saying like, hey, you know what? You've been killing it lately. I see what you're doing. Like, keep that up. Like just them, that little bit of recognition for your team, like it goes miles, because they're gonna leave there thinking like, oh shit. And like eventually though, what can happen is not a bad thing, but like essentially if you do that too much, and you don't have the expectations and correct them and confront them, they'll start to get comfortable. So you gotta like, it's like a fine line of playing, hey, like good job. This is still a professional environment. Like I'm not your buddy. This isn't buddyship, it's leadership. It's a big thing that people get messed up, is they want to buddy with everybody. And then when that happens, and then you come down on someone, they get their feelings hurt because they forget that it's business, not friendship. So they're like, so it's a very fine line. But the more you do it and the more you experience it and you learn everybody's personality, because everybody's personality is different, you learn how they like to be led and like kind of how they are, and that'll help you greatly. But yeah, this is a big thing that I do all the time. I tell my guys they're doing great, but again, I don't overdo it to the point where like, hey, Brody, like you did so great. Let's go out and have a drink this weekend, and me and you are gonna have a one-on-one, and we're just gonna hang out. And like, no, there's like you gotta have the separation. Next thing is probably this is what I do the most, even with cleaning or anything. So like my office, I clean my own office. I don't have anybody come in and take out my trash. I don't have anybody sweep my floor. I don't have anybody mop my floor. That's my space and I'm going to take care of it. So my lead by example is I clean my office like with a toothbrush and it's, perfectly clean. And then when I walk out into the workspaces and I'm like, hey, like this is my office. This is the expectation that I want this place to look like. So I do that because they're like, oh, well, this guy's like clean his own office. Cause a lot of guys are like, hey, there, the lower guy, the guy just got here, you're new. Come take out my trash and wipe off the desk when I leave. And they're like, what? Like, who are you? Like, yeah, you're my boss. But like at the same time, like if you have that type of attitude towards like everybody's supposed to do everything for you, um, you're not gonna get the respect. So that it isn't a very good way to lead. Is especially just lead by example. So that goes with everything. Um, I'll even just read this. Successful leaders model their behavior they expect from their team. They demonstrate integrity, accountability, and a strong work ethic. Leading by example sets a standard for others all and builds credibility and respect. So when you're telling somebody, if you're telling somebody to do something, make sure you've done it. Make sure you know how to do it, and you're actually doing something else. So what I mean by that is, let's say at the just for a basic example, let's say at the end of the night, it's like cleanup time, and it's like you're the supervisor and you got two people on your shift. Here's how I always start out when I tell some people to do it. Like, hey, I'm going to do XYZ. I need you to do XYZ, and I need you to do XYZ. Don't start out with, hey, we need to get this shit cleaned up so we can get out of here. Go and hurry up and come back to me when you're done. Like, how's two different types of outlook on it, right? So essentially, if you're like just telling people to do shit and you're not leading with, that you're actually going to be doing something too, like helping towards the cause, that's not going to sit very well and you're going to lose respect really quick. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you guys had anything like that in the past? Like, have you had a boss that's just like, hey, do it, and then you just see him back in the back, like sitting on a cell phone, not doing shit?
Yeah.
Absolutely. The biggest example right now for me is at home. My landlord, he leads by example. He gives me little positive, you're doing good, but not too friendly. And then he cleans up very well, so we have to maintain the house very well.
Mm.
Oh, nice. No, that's good because he leads by example, like, hey, this is what I expect. So like if you're like, oh shit, like if I'm not up to that, then it's kind of like a father figure type of thing. That's how I always look at it.
Right.
You basically do something to like you're not mad at them, but they get the feeling that you would be disappointed if you came in and you saw the way you were doing a certain thing or the way you left something or the job you did, and people are like, oh dang, like I don't want to let him down. Like he has such like such a great, nice person. I need to, hold up to his standard because I don't want to disappoint him. But if you're just a
Right.
dick, right? If you're just a dick all the time, everybody's gonna be like, screw this guy. I don't give a shit what he thinks. And then they yell at you or whoever the person is, and then you don't give a shit. And they get no response back. The people that are working for him shut down. Nobody wants to do anything. So
I
I know
like that.
this is
I was
yeah.
just going to
And
say, I never thought of it that way because I'm just now realizing I've had people in my life tell me I have like a maternal energy. And I've been told from leadership that like the best way I lead is by example. So like I feel like I'm getting a clear idea of what that is now that you mentioned like, oh, it's almost like a fatherly and they don't want to disappoint you. I'm like, wow, yeah. Okay, I think that's what I do for
100%.
women especially.
Oh, nice. Yeah, 100%. And a lot of people like, I don't know why, but leadership isn't a very like commonly taught thing. Because like there's a difference between management and leadership. Management is like processes and like that type of thing. Like, hey, here's the SOPs, here's the steps for cleaning up for the end of the night. You need to do X, Y, Z. And like that's management comes down, they come up with these lists and they play them out. But an actual leader is someone that is, fostering an environment in which people can, they want to be there, they want to grow, they can actually talk and have, make decisions with you. Because you
Yeah.
leave it to everybody, because you make everybody feel included, like they have a purpose. Like they're not just like, I'm just here to do whatever you tell me to do. And then it's like, they don't feel like they have a purpose or a say, and they don't feel like they're growing. And over time, they can make them stagnant. And yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
I've seen it many, many times. All right. So next thing is make informed decisions. Effective leaders gather relevant information, consider various processes. I was kind of talking about this earlier, various perspectives, and use critical thinking to make sound decisions. They're decisive yet flexible, willing to adapt their decisions based on new information and changing circumstances. So I basically already explained this one earlier. Essentially, like, you're not hard-headed. You're not the guy that's going to be like, hey, my way or the highway. You bring stuff up, you gather all the information, you give them the why. I'm a huge person on giving the why. I hate it when they used to call us the why generation. It's like, yeah, because I want to know why I'm doing it. like it's not necessarily because I don't want to do it. It's just like, if I know what I'm doing it for, it's going to make me want to do it regardless of whether I agree with it or not. Like, it just helps. Because if you're just like blindly out there doing stuff, then yeah, it doesn't, for me anyway, it didn't really help. But yeah, we already talked about this. So basically, you're flexible, willing to take constructive criticism and differences in what people, um, other people's opinions. Because it's
Mhm.
definitely, like I said, it's not, you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. You just got to surround yourself with the right people. Because like 9 times out of 10, half of these millionaire billionaires, they have, like, even Mike Barron, for example, he has so many people around him. Like, yes,
Yeah.
he probably knows how to do everything, but he has so many different resources that he can reach out to.
Yeah.
And yeah, if he didn't have that, he wouldn't be nearly as successful as he is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever had the person that basically just says to do something and not doesn't explain it?
I used
Yes.
And what line of work was that in?
line of work. Gosh, it's been so long. I'm just now realizing, like, I'm surrounded by good leaders in my life. But number four, particularly, like a great example who embodies number four is my dad. Like when I
Yeah.
get in trouble or my siblings get into trouble, he's really good at talking with us and we feel safe to talk with him and he gets us to think about our decisions. So it's up to us if we want to make that mistake again and like realize it's our consequence, informed decision. So yeah, it's really cool how it
Yeah, for sure.
beats my dad.
And that he's a good leader then. I mean, it's great. Again, like the father figure type of thing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's like, because you never want to disappoint your parents. Because 9 times out of 10, you do something, you're like, oh, they're gonna be so disappointed in me. And
True.
it's kind of like, you kind of want to have that up on you. You take them in as like your own, and then they feel that, like, that respect, and then it makes them want to work, because they constantly start thinking like, if I was being lazy right now and I didn't finish this step in this process, like, he knew that or she knew that, like, they would be disappointed in me. So then it makes them want to do it. Versus if it's the end on Friday, about to be the weekend, about to be gone for the weekend, and you have the step to do, and you're like, you know what? Screw my supervisor. That guy's such a dick. Like, I don't even care. And they just skip the step and never do it. So, because I've led both ways. Because when I first came out of the Marine Corps, I had the very, like, this is how you're supposed to lead, because you're supposed to listen to me because you have to. And that didn't go very
Right.
well on me, to be honest. And then I started reading books, and I started learning, and I started doing a little research on it. Books were like the main thing, and then I actually got a leader, Pedro Vasquez, believe it or not, who's like a short little Mexican guy, which is hilarious because I'm this gigantic, 6'7" guy. He's literally like a 5'4", 140-pound Mexican. It's hilarious. But he was the best leader I ever had. Um,
Wow.
awesome.
I love that.
Um, Yeah, we'll jump into number 5. So empowering others. So successful leaders empower their team members by delegating tasks, providing anatomy, and encouraging professional development. Empowering others builds confidence, fosters innovation, and creates a more resilient and capable team. So delegating tasks is, again, making people feel like they have a purpose. Because if essentially you're always telling one person, because they're kind of, not everybody learns the same. Some people are slower than others, but you kind of, by getting to know them, you figure out what some people are good at, and you give them those types of tasks. And then you obviously empower them to want to, hey, you're great at doing this, you should work on this. And then but you're still including them in the team, but you're telling them constructively what they need to work on and what they're good at. And you got to learn that about your people. Since you'll be dealt this shit sandwich in your manager position, and everybody's bad at one thing and they're all good at one thing. So you kind of got to like, all right, you're going to learn this and get better at it now. Like there is no, like, you kind of like, you just move the chess pieces as needed. But essentially the biggest thing to do with this is make sure that people have a job, make sure they know what their job is, make sure they know what to improve on. Sorry. And make sure they know what to improve on, and then that will get them to want to be better. So basically, others, you're building their confidence up because you're giving them positive affirmation about what they're doing, and that's good. And then at that, you're also telling them for the professional development, like, hey, you need to do this as well, so you can get even better, and this will open this many other doors. That makes sense. All right. So number 6, foster collaboration. So great leaders create an environment where teamwork and collaboration are valued. They facilitate cooperation by promoting open communication, resolving conflicts, and encouraging diverse perspectives. Collaboration leads to better problem solving and innovation. So working together. Again, when you go to get a task accomplished, you start out with, hey, I need you to do this, or hey, I'm going to do this, you do this. That is like the number one play or number one thing that I use that always gets like a positive, like they look like, oh shit, like, okay, he's working too. Like that's the first thing you should do is be like, here's what I'm doing, and here's what I need you to do and why. And they're automatically like, okay, cool. Like you're helping. They're automatically gonna just change that. So when you're fostering collaboration, again, it's kind of going to the same thing, but it's kind of like a repeat of earlier where you create an environment where people can bring up their opinions and feel like they're actually valued and not just shut down. Now, not everybody's going to have the best ideas. So you can't be the person that's just like, oh yeah, everybody has a great idea. Like you just professionally, you kind of shut down why something might be a bad idea, but give them like the good why. Don't just be like, hey, that's dumb. Don't ever talk again. Like they're like, what? Damn. Okay. Like, so don't do that. Be like, hey, I love that you gave your idea, but here's why that probably won't work. X, Y, Z. And so we're probably gonna go this route. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they might think of something else that does actually work. So it's just the way you approach it and the way you go at it with them. It's gonna make a big difference.
Yeah, kindly disagree. Like there's a
Yes.
kind way to disagree with people. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's definitely a professional way of going about stuff and a not professional way. The things tend to get more unprofessional the more friendly you get. So that's again between that buddyship and leadership. Like it's that fine line, never letting them cross it, because like people will start getting comfortable and complacent, and then next thing you know, it's like, you got shit going wild, and you're like, oh shit, I let the reins go out way too much, and now I got to pull back. One of the best things that one of my leaders taught me, it's easier. So when you come into a situation, it's easier to be stern and more, not necessarily authoritative, but easier to be stern and less friendly, and then be friendly later. And then when you snap back into your firm, they're like, oh no, like, oh shit, like, okay, he's back, he's serious, like we messed up. Versus the guy that's super friendly when you first come in, and then you're trying to be serious and like, nah, man, like you're just whatever, bro. Like, calm down, you're fine. Like, it's not a big deal. So it's like it's easier to go from the guy that's like means business to the nice guy versus the nice guy that means business.
Right. That just
So
reminded me of this book. Well, it's an Audible that I listened to called Omarosa. I don't know if you know who she is. She like managed the top models or whatever. But she called her book The Bitch Switch. She's like, don't turn on your twit switch, turn on your bitch switch. But she doesn't mean like be mean and aggressive. Just be like assertive, when you ask for things. So that's what immediately when you say too friendly, I think a twitch switch.
yeah.
So yeah.
It's for sure because people will try to take advantage of that all day. My Marines do it all the time, like literally every shop, everywhere. Like there's people that are better at it than others. There's people that kind of like get how it works. But I have a guy, Mondesir. He is the worst. He is like the second you're nice to him for like 20 minutes, he already starts like, hey, and like starts calling you by your rank, starts like dabbing you up, and you're like, bro, like, no. What do you like? What just happened in the last 20 minutes that you think now that we're homies? Like, we don't know. Like, rewind back because he just like wants to be that way so much because it's like his personality.
Right.
But again, everybody's different, so you just have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Did we already go over adapt to change?
No.
Adapt to change. Successful leaders are adaptable to embrace change. They stay informed about industry trends and are proactive in adjusting strategies to stay competitive. Adaptability allows leaders to navigate challenges, seize new opportunities effectively. So essentially, when shit changes, don't stress out, be open to it. Don't be the guy that's like, hey, this is how we've always done it, and there's no better way. That is the worst thing possible.
Yeah.
Because it's basically like the whole saying, can't teach an old dog new tricks. Um, if you have that mindset of like, nope, because like a lot of people don't like change. Like when something's changing in their life, like a new environment, like people just don't like it. So when you start to embrace that and actually welcome it and look at it as like a challenge and something that gonna, like, hey, I'm gonna tackle this head on and I'm gonna, adapt to it and I'm gonna make things better. Just be open to adapting to change because change is a lot of the times is better because you're only what's the saying? Um, So you only know what you know, but you like haven't experienced it. So what I mean by that is like, okay, you think that your setting on your, watch is like the best setting there is, and there's no better setting. But you've never even tried a different setting to see if one is better. But you're just so in love with this one setting that you're like, you know what, I'm never gonna change it, I'm just gonna leave it. But if somebody else comes along like, hey, like this setting's like way better because it does this, right? And you're like, no, I don't want to do that. You're like, but it's literally so much better. Like everything that you want is in that, and like you're dealing with that because you're so comfortable and with what you're doing. Like embrace the change.
That's
So
like
that's
people
like
with
one of
their
the
androids.
that, hey, that was me.
Oh, you okay?
I have an iPhone now. I have an iPhone now, but my wife and my ex-wife and my two daughters and everybody I knew had a stupid iPhone. So I was the guy in the chats that was making the chat green. I was like, whatever.
Oh no, green bubbles.
Believe it or
Yeah.
not, small things like that. Um, People see that, especially professionally. There was this one guy that said to fill out his condos, they don't even accept applications with red text. It's only blue text
No.
because those green text would be easier for them to not be good roommates or yeah. So it's a screening
Whoa.
process.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
Oh.
I mean, if you're filling your places up and you have the ability to set that standard, then I mean, why not? But if you're like,
Mhm.
obviously these places are vacant and green bubbles are hitting you and they want in, you're like, eh. But if you're like got so many people, you're like, you know what? All the green bubbles, no. That's
Yeah.
kind of funny. Okay, number 8. provide clear vision and goals. Effective leaders have a clear vision of the future, set specific and achievable goals, communicate their vision to their team, align with everyone's efforts towards a common objective. Clear goals provide direction and motivation. Again, the why is the biggest thing here. So, why are we doing this? Because we're trying to get to this goal. And why are we trying to get to this goal? Here's what we're going to be doing to get to that goal, the vision. Okay, this needs to do this. This is why we're doing this and this. And then the end result is going to be this. If that makes, sense. And essentially, that's why I love the Y generation. I know some people hated it, but this is the biggest reason, was provide clear vision to the goals. Like, hey, why are we doing, like, not even, sometimes they wouldn't even give a goal. They'll just like tell you start doing stuff. You're like, okay, but why are we doing this? And then they'll be like, oh, here's the why you're doing this. Oh, okay. And then they're like, because we're trying to do this, the goal. You're like, oh, okay. And if people have that, it's a part of feeling, part of being something bigger than you. That is like the biggest reason why people want to know those things. Because if people join, that's a lot of the reasons why people join the military. They want to be part of something that's bigger than them. And, essentially there's a goal and something to work for and a purpose. And if you have all those things, people are going to want to work for you and, be there. If essentially people are just running around with no one knowing what the hell they're there for, I mean, that's not going to be very good. Like every week, our CO comes down to us in the Marine Corps, and he would give us a why to what we're doing for the entire week. He'd come in on Thursdays. It'd be like a 30-minute thing outside. He'd be like, hey, here's the tasking we have. Here's what we're doing for training. Here's why we need these many aircraft. This is why we need this and this and this. Because the goal is we're going to get this person qualified and this person qualified so they can go and do X, Y, Z. And, our command will be more qualified and we'll be able to hit our requirements, what is required from the MAG, the higher headquarters. And you're like, oh, shit, okay. Because a lot of the times, like when you don't know why you're out there, like, hey, why do we need 4 aircraft? Like, ridiculous. Like, that's crazy. Like, why are we working 12 on 12 off to get these 12 get 4 aircraft up? And it's irritating when you don't know why. You're just like, why are these people just like doing this because they hate us and they just, they're in that authoritative spot? Like, no, I want to look better. So you're going to work more because the more up aircraft we have, the better we look. And it's like, no, like, but if there's an actual reason other than, hey, just want you to look good on paper, then it's like, okay, I'm buying that because you're actually helping people get to their goal. You're helping people get qualified, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, because their purpose.
People are going to want to be there. Yeah. How many times? I mean, has there been any times in your guys's, like, do you guys, like, in any line of work that you've done, have you had like any people like provide like a goal to why, or is it just like, very basic? Like if you're worked in a restaurant, you're a dishwasher, obviously the goal of the dishwasher is to get more dishes clean so people can eat and you can cook food to get the dishes. But is there any more high stuff of any companies you worked for where they've had like a weekly or monthly meeting or anything about goals?
Not a lot from what I worked at. They didn't have like monthly meetings or anything like that.
Okay. 'Cause I know like for Mike, they do sales meetings every week. Trey Toner gets up there, he's the director, he sits down, and their goal every day is 30K in sales. That's what they're like their minimum. So like basically nobody goes home until they reach that goal.
That makes a
So
difference.
that's basically, yeah. So it's basically that's like the expectation he has, and then they have meetings and showing why they're going towards that goal, and like the reason why they're doing the training or what they're doing differently or why they implemented a new SOP. Like they just, I don't know if you guys saw it. I don't know if you guys were sent the link, but Mike did an impromptu sales training yesterday. We had all the top sales executives, sat them down, and he wrote a new SOP because they were like losing leads. They were falling out of essentially, Trey and the other, can't think of his name. Can't think of his name. He's the skinnier guy.
Logan?
But basically, what's that?
Logan?
No, he's a Mexican guy. He's actually his partner. can't think of his name. It's driving me crazy. Anyway, essentially, like they weren't accounting for like all these dropped leads because closers were like, they would get appointments or they would miss them, and they didn't have any proof to show that they essentially did what they said they did. So then he created a new SOP that basically every time a closer jumps on a call or doesn't jump on a call, they have to, and report to Trey and Nick, that's his name, the results. So essentially, like they can be like, "Hey, like what happened?" And like before, they would just be like, "Yeah, you didn't buy," and just bullshit, and then just like throw it off to the side. Like there was no
Interesting.
why or thing. So like essentially, like because they were so focused on so many leads coming in,
Yeah.
they're basically all the people that had already like they talked to, they said no or kind of need more time. They kind of just like push them to the side, a little bit. In some instances, like this was happening, it might not happen to you. But essentially they were losing leads. They're not falling back up because there's so many new leads coming in. So they kept getting so focused on like, oh, these new people, but like these people that have already like shown interest and had, basically jumped on a call to want to be in there, and they just couldn't do it at that time. They weren't falling back up with them. So they needed
So
Wow.
to.
that's why I left, or not left, but stopped doing Mike's master classes, because it seemed like they had too many inflow, and the people that I talked to, like Corey or they're good at calling and trying to get you in there, but once they know you're not up for that $10,000 program, they kind of scoot you to the side. So that's why I fell off.
Yeah. 100, that's 100% what he brought up today. He was like, yo, like that's not, he's like, that's not okay. He's like, we need to provide value, because he has something as cheap as $97. So he's
Right.
like, you need to, even if you don't sell the biggest course, like I still want to provide value to people in
Right.
any way I can. And I was like, oh, like noted. Because I mean, that's what I try to provide value in any way I can. So he was like just disappointed that his team was just kind of like throwing these people to the side because like, oh, we have new inbound leads. But he's like, yeah, but you got to nurture the ones that even if they didn't 100% want to jump in on that, like maybe they want something else. And then who knows, they'll gain something from that. And then 2, 3, 4, 5 months later, they'll be like, you know what? Like that was super helpful, but I need a little more help and I'm a little bit financially better now. Here, let me jump back in, because
Mm,
he's basically was saying that's why he has like he calls it the ecosystem once you get him inside.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and essentially like they were not nurturing the people that were essentially not 100% ready to commit right now. But he was like, those people come back around 9 times out of 10 because it's in the back of
Yeah.
the mind. And they're like, hey, like, you know what? I am ready to do that. Like, shit's gotten a little better. I'm kind of at a dead end. Like, I have some money saved up and I can make
You
it
see,
happen.
so Mike is a good leader. He noticed the change and he changed
Mhm.
with it.
He
Just like
confronted
we
it right
talked about.
away.
Mhm.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Mike's a savage when it comes to all that stuff. Like I know he's the founder, he's not the CEO, but like I can see that he has a really hard time like relinquishing the reins to just John Pena, because he sees all these things, because he's looking at it from like the super high level. So he's like, he doesn't have a specific job every day other than just like make sure that shit's going the way it's supposed to be going. So he'll notice things like, hey, that's not right. Hey, what's going on with that? Or he'll just walk around. That's number one thing he says. He just walks around, just listens to people like, what's going on with that? Like, that's not what we do. And then he'll go back and he'll bring it up to his salespeople or his, sales leadership and be like, hey, yo, what's up with the appointment setters? Like, they're like talking some nonsense, like saying this and this. And he's like, none of that shit's even true. He's like, when's the last time we sat down with them and gave them like why, what we're doing or any of that stuff? Like, sorry not to ramble on about that, but like, just for example, like they'll put out like a scholarship, and they'll
Yeah.
put like the thing for a lower price, and then like the sales leadership won't even tell like an appointment setter or a closer. So then Mike, he'll like tell them to do it, like Trey and Nick, and he'll be like, all right, hey, here's what the promo we're doing, make sure everybody knows. And like for whatever reason, maybe one guy wasn't there, he showed up later, had to go somewhere and came in later, and he'll be like, Mike will see that and they'll be like, all right, we'll give him like, an hour or two to see if they tell him. And essentially they don't tell him, then he'll go up to him like, hey, what what's the deal for today? He goes, oh no, this basically, and they basically just show that they don't know because they didn't get told by their higher ups or their leadership that, hey, we're running the scholarship program today, so you should be focusing on this and talking about this. And he shows that, and he does it all the time. He'll send text in the inner circle chat all the time, checking his leadership. Like literally, he'll be like, "Boom! Look, I caught him again, like not doing X, Y, Z or something," and then he'll screenshot the SOP where it says, "This is exactly what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it." It's pretty crazy.
I
The amount of
remember him.
control.
I remember him
Go.
saying, "We don't lie, and if you lie, you're out of here." So integrity is a big part of why he's so successful, I believe, or
Mm-hmm.
in
Oh,
his
100%.
master camp.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's 100%. He's very, yeah, he's very intuitive and very like in tune with everything that's going on. And he doesn't like it when like his people, like you just said, are lying or just like talking some like craziness. That was like, he's like, we don't even like, that's not even part of like the sales script at all. He's like, what are they talking about? Like, why are we talking about, you can get rides and Lambos and all this crazy stuff if you come here? And he said that's one kid one time was like, yeah, if you come to the facility, you can get some ride in the Lambos. He was like, what the is this
What?
guy talking about? He was like,
But
no,
you gotta
no.
say that. That's interesting.
I mean, that's a really good sell. Hey, if you come check out this
Yeah,
appointment,
that
you
is a
get a
pretty good sale, but like, yeah, at the same time, you don't want to lie. That's
yeah, exactly. That's not what they don't do that. So
mm,
all right, sorry. Jumping back on number 9, show empathy.
yeah.
Um, Great leaders show empathy by understanding and addressing the needs and concerns of their team members. They build strong relationships based on trust and respect, which fosters a supportive and positive work environment. What's that? Um, so essentially, the number one thing that I do when I sit somebody down, um, in a leadership role, I'll just sit down and ask them like, "Hey, how are you? How's your family? Where are you from?" Like, show genuine interest in like their hobbies, their family. If their family is important to them, if they have a significant other, like just those, like just about them as a person, not like, "Hey, what skills do you have? How are you going to be useful to me?" How basically just not seeing how they're going to be useful to you, just showing genuine interest in them as a person. That's the first thing I do. Like, not even like, okay, hey, my name's Nathan. I'm your boss and your supervisor. Let's sit down and have a talk. Or, hey, I know you just got onboarded. I got a meeting set up with you tomorrow. And then during that meeting, the first thing I do is I just ask them, like, hey, man, like, how are you? Where'd you grow up? How's the do you have a family? Kids? Like, explain all that to me. And they're like, oh shit, okay. Like it takes down their guard and it kind of like makes them relaxed
Yeah.
and be able to open it. Basically, it fosters a supportive and positive work because it shows like you actually care and you're not just looking at them as a number. Like, oh shit, this guy actually cares about you as a person. That's cool. That right there is gonna just like set the tone of how they think when they approach you from there on out. Because if you show me like, hey, what do you know? Do you know this? Like, what are your skills? Like, what are your certifications? And you're like, oh shit, certifications. Yeah, I got the certification. All right, cool. So you're actually gonna be useful to me. Okay, so it's not shit on stick and blah blah blah. And they just rip them in all this stuff. And I see that shit all the time. It's in the Marine Corps. It is ridiculous because like the Marine Corps, it kind of like it's a good old boys club. So they foster this bad environment for the new guy because they have a new game, a name for the new guy. It's called a nugget. New useless guy that basically doesn't know shit, like what the acronym stands for because of the way it's spelled. Um, so like when you see a new guy, they're like, oh, the nugget's here.
Oh, really interesting.
And higher up leadership, like they try to like obviously like the COs and sergeant majors, they really try to get away from that type of treatment. But like the lower guys that have only been there, like 6 months longer, but they've been there 6 months longer. The guy coming in, the new guy doesn't know that. They just see them as like, oh, he's the guy that's been here working here a while. And then they just treat him like dog shit. Like, oh, you're the new guy, so you're gonna do all the dumb shit all day. You're gonna take out the trash. You're gonna walk the floor. You're not gonna do like they don't actually make them feel like they're part of the club. Like it's just like, hey, you're just the new guy. You gotta your stripes. It's like, no. People are
The
gonna out
first
themselves. What's that?
the first time that happens, the first time you look away, I'm gone. I'm out of there.
No, it's true, and it's like in the military though. They know they can't like just leave. I mean, you can technically, but it's like not nearly as easy as just like a civilian job where you're just like, hey, you know what, dog? Like, I'm out. Like, here's my notice. Like in the military, they can't necessarily do that. So it kind of fosters that horrible environment of people treating people like shit. I don't
Mm.
like it. I've never, I mean, I was like that at first because it's like what you kind of get brought into, what you kind of believe. And then once you like start to mature and realize that like that is not how it works. And for me, I'm the type of person that if treat me like shit, I shut down. Like essentially like I just like I don't want to be there, quiet, go off and do whatever. And I'm like working super slow because I'm like, whatever, I'm not gonna be here. Like there's some people that when you come down on them, um it kind of like motivates them to do better. But then there's also some people that where you come down on them, they shut down. Like I have Mondas here, he's that guy. You come down on him and he like mopes around the rest of the day. He'll take like 2 hours to do a 10-minute task. And you're like, dude, like what's going on? Like talk to me, dude. Like what's the problem? He's like, no, like he feels like he's just disrespected. So I
There's that
had
empathy
so
piece.
you what's that?
There's that empathy piece, asking him like, what's going on, right?
100%. And so
Some
like
people,
you just no,
excuse
you
me,
can go.
some
No, you're
people
good.
get it. Some people get it, and the people that get motivated by it, some people get it. Now, the other people that get motivated by it, maybe they get motivated for the wrong reasons. Maybe they want to see themselves above you, or it's not the right
Yeah.
way to go about that.
Mm-hmm.
No, for sure. And that I mean that's essentially why I don't ever do that. And I try to learn everybody. I mean, there is some people you have to be more firm with. I'm never just a dick for no reason. I will be more firm with some people and more father figure for some people, depending on how they react to stuff. So it's leadership is and being in a leadership position is a very difficult role because like your other superior, not superiors, but your other peers. So you'll have these guys or girls that are, they don't quite get it and they're very hard to lead because they're like overly sensitive and like they're changing all the time. And we call those leadership challenges because essentially, you have to like really bend the way you do and really learn this person to try to figure out like what makes them tick or what makes them not tick. And some people just aren't savable, honestly. Like you also need to remember that I've had two Marines that I know personally that I've gotten kicked out of the Marine Corps because they just did not get it. I'm talking like 6 months of continuous work and talking to them and counseling and like back and helping them and like just finally being like, you know what, like you're just not it. Like you just don't get it. Like I don't know what else to do. Like I'm like completely exhausted. And sometimes there is those types of people, but you always try to bring the best out of people. Don't obviously be like, you're an idiot. I can't teach you anything because you mess up one thing. Like, no. But if they're showing a pattern over months and months and months of continually not getting it, then you just be professional about it and be like, you know what? Like, go to whoever your boss is that's higher than you, or if you are the boss, terminate that person.
I have a question
Because
that just came up for me as we're talking about empathy.
yeah,
Uh, the apex performance. I know you get men and women. What I'm
yeah.
often, do you ever get women where they're like, oh, these exercises might be too masculine for me, or this whole thing might be too masculine. Like, what do you usually say to like help them feel taken care
I haven't had that yet.
of?
Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I actually haven't had anybody come to me and say like, but I do know plenty of women, that essentially do. Like, I don't go to the gym because I don't want to be manly. It's like, no, like, men and women's bodies are built differently. Like, obviously, there's some chicks that are like super jacked. Just it's just a genetics thing. Um,
Mhm.
So essentially, if someone were to say that to me, I can adjust their weightlifting if they want me to, after I
Mhm.
explain to them that, essentially you're not going to look like a man if you just do weight. But no, I have 100% heard that because I've
Okay.
had
Yeah,
girls
I
all the
asked
time be like,
this.
"I want to be me."
Right.
You know,
Oh, go ahead.
I have something to say about that. So first, in my show Vikings, they have the women are shield maidens, so they fight alongside the men and earn the same respect. So being that that is, women not only have the capability, but they could even go above and beyond men. And being that I was raised by a single mother, that was my right there my first example. So she was a waitress. She did it on her own, and she raised 3 children. So, like I told you on the hike, you could do it. I was always right behind you, and I made sure your steps are one in front of the other, and I just knew that,
I appreciate
you're
that.
with
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And the reason why I ask is because I've had several women, you know, kind of approach me and say, but isn't that too masculine? Or like even with Mike Barron's, they're like, oh, but there's a lot of guys there, Danielle. I'm like, yeah, me, I'm open-minded. Like if I see value, I see value and I go for it. So yeah, I was just curious how you, I guess, handle that objection in a way when that happens.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I actually have I know some women that have said that, but I haven't had personally any of the people that have wanted to work with me say
Hmm.
that yet. But when they do, I mean, just essentially gonna be like you as a building muscle as a foundation, like you're not gonna look like a man if you just do basic weightlifting. Now, if you're
Right.
doing I build you a powerlifting program and you're sucking down 300 grams of protein a day and you're on creatine, you're like, your whole goal is to just be blow up. Like, okay, sure, you might look more manly, but just overall general health, building more lean muscle mass is going to help you burn more calories. It's going to help you be leaner. You're going to have actual shape. You're not going to be, like essentially what a lot of girls do is they'll just get on cardio machines and just go cardio, and they'll start to be like, oh, I just coughed. Um, because she was that way. When I met her, she did yoga and cardio. She was like a beanpole. So she didn't realize that muscle mass is so important. So when you have muscles, it basically gives you shape. And when you do cardio, your cardio is good. I love cardio. I mean, it's why it's part of my program. But if you only do cardio and you're starving yourself all the time, you're not going to gain muscle mass. You're going to get like skinny, and then your body
Right.
actually burns less calories, and you can eat less to maintain the body. So like when you lift weights and your muscles are recovering, they're burning calories all day. So yeah, I mean, I could easily convince anybody with that pretty
You have a lot
quickly.
of knowledge. Yeah, because even like with my impression when I joined, I'm like, okay, Nate's very knowledgeable, and he customized it. Like that's the main value. I think the reason why I'm also asking this is because I can't help it. I love promoting your program, so sometimes I get those objections, and I kind of want to. I'm realizing now I can just say, no, he customized it for you. It doesn't mean you
Okay.
have to
Yeah,
exactly customize. Yeah.
So,
100%.
bel believe it or not, walking into Mike Barron's office and seeing the one lady, Sophia, beautiful lady, smart,
Yeah.
intelligent, that's her advantage. Being in a room with only guys and seeing her as a man, I pick up on that, and I could tell, there's a reason why she's there, and she's sticking along with it. So that's a woman's advantage there.
Yeah. No, I love being there.
Yeah, it's fun there.
Yeah, I just
It's
wish more women
crazy.
were a little more open-minded like me. That's all. So yeah, no, thank
No,
you for
for
this.
sure. Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, I see it all the time, and I try to, speak to everybody, and I try not to make my program just for men. That's why I kind of got rid of the Alpha Academy because it was very manly directed. which I got some feedback from people. Because like
That's
there was
good.
there's a few dudes that were like, yeah, man, that name is awesome. Like, why'd you change it? I'm like, because like you're the person that thinks it's cool. But I was like, you're already like that type of person. You already work out, like of course you think it's cool, but like what about the person that's like, just coming out, doesn't really know much about fitness and they're, middle-aged female and they're like, oh, Alpha Academy. Like, I don't want to be part of that. Like, yeah, that made sense. And I was like, all right, like you're right. Because like people that do think that name is cool, the first name essentially would not be my clients. So it's like, okay, that doesn't work.
And
Number
that
Um,
seven,
was,
adapt to change. Oh, sorry, talking.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and that's number seven, adapt to change. You adapted to
That's it.
change.
yeah,
That's what I was gonna say.
Oh, okay. Wow, we said it at the same
Good
time.
leadership, Nate.
yeah,
Hello.
100%. I mean, again, I took people's feedback. I'm like, yeah, like I'm not the person. People ask me all the time, like, you coachable? I'm like, I am utmost coachable.
All right.
Like, I don't think I know everything ever, and I'm always open to learning something new from anybody. Like, you can learn. Like, if somebody even isn't on as high of like a, like, I don't like to look at people as like a how much money you make type of thing. I feel like I can gain value from no matter how much money you're at or how much money you make or where you're at in your life or whatever. Just it doesn't have to be like, oh, here's how to make $1 million. It could be like just a basic life thing that you never thought of. And they're like, they kind of open your perspective. You're like, oh shit, I never thought about it like that. Yeah, that's why I love like meeting and talking to people. Just for that reason right there. You can just gain different perspectives from different people. And I really enjoy that.
Oh yeah.
All right, so number 10, continuously learn and improve. Successful leaders are committed to continuous learning and self-improvement. They seek feedback, embrace new ideas. Wow, it's like we just talked about this. Like just as last thing we were just talking about before I started reading this, and invest in their own development.
Ah.
This commitment to growth ensures they remain effective, relevant in their leadership roles. So it's just like we were talking about. Like I reach for feedback all the time because I'm not so hard-headed that I'm going to be like, no, this is the way it is, and that's the way it's going to be. Obviously, there's some things that you just need to put your head down and go to work, but there's obviously fact that you can get all the time from anything you're doing, and especially from your team. Like, if you have a team, you could literally just be like, hey, do you guys want to do like what we do in the Marine Corps? I think we did was like once a quarter, we would have like a shop day where we went out as a shop and we did something. So it was like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 guys. We go out and just do something together to, create some camaraderie and essentially, get out of the normal work environment and just kind of like break it up a little bit, kind of like see people let their guard down. And that kind of like fosters more of like a environment for trusting each other because it isn't always that like serious work all the time. Obviously, you can't let it get too far away, but it is good to get people out of the work environment every now and then to see, how they act and how they are. And it kind of changes your perspective on some people in a good way. But yes, as a leader, I always push for my guys to learn, continue self-improvement, like doing courses, and the Marine Corps has tons of courses. You always could be in shape because you get graded on how fast you run, how many pull-ups you can do, all that stuff. It goes in your promotion. So like you get the higher, better you are at everything, the more points you get, and then you are competing against everybody else and they're getting points. And every month they'll come out with like, hey, if you have this many points, you're gonna get promoted. So always tell people to learn and like, get outside their bubble. You shouldn't, it's selfish sometimes. Like if you, let's say you're a leader, right? And you got a really good person underneath you, you kind of want them to stay there because you're like, wow, this person's like killing it for me, right? But you do not want to hinder them by essentially like keeping them there because they're good, but that they could do much better somewhere else. But like you don't want to tell them that, or like you're kind of like selfish in that aspect of like, hey, I just want to kind of like keep them here because they're like my number one. So don't ever do that. Always help people because you're always gonna have someone else come in. You might not always, but like that person will respect you and thank you, and what you give out comes back later in life. So yeah, that's one of my main pieces on that because I've 100% been in that boat before to where I'm like, man, I really like this guy and I don't want him to, you know, pick up rank and do this and this and this because then he might potentially leave. Or he might not do this job anymore because he's now above that role. He wants to do the next role and higher in the hierarchy. And I know the guy coming up behind him, I'm going to need him to train him, you know, make sure he's as proficient. But, you know, everybody's different. So not everybody's going to be as good as the next guy. Sorry. But yeah. So always be open to feedback, embrace new ideas, and tell your people to always be better and foster that. Don't ever hold them back. Yeah, I'm gonna apply at this new job over here, and it's this much of a raise. You be like, you know what, you do that, and if you need a recommendation from me, like by all means, I'm here, and I will write you that recommendation. Put me as the person. What's the name for it on an application? Reference. Like
Mhm.
write me as a reference. And I'll write you a recommendation letter. Like, and that is gonna like they'll be like, shit, maybe I don't want to leave. Like this person's so legit. So like
Yeah.
just always be a good person and always want the best for everybody else, and shit'll come full circle. Come full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I've learned that over the years for sure. Um, yeah, leadership role is it's a challenge for sure. It is not something that's easy because once you build that trust, people are going to open up to you a lot more than you think about just other things in life. So essentially, when you're in any kind of leadership position, whether it's management at a restaurant or even the military, essentially when you build that trust with people, they kind of like you become their mentor and they kind of bring up a little bit of everything to you. Hey, I'm, you know, buying a new car. Like, what do you recommend, or should I get a loan? Or, you know, they ask you just life questions, and you start becoming more of like because not everybody grew up with, you know, parents that were super financially savvy or whatever, and so they might have, you know, different questions for you. The only reason I bring that up is just, you know, kind of be ready when you foster like a good environment. Essentially, like if you're doing a good job, like people are gonna start coming to you and opening up to you about like shit that you would never even imagine like they would talk to you about. And you're like, oh shit, okay. And that's not a bad thing. I'm just telling you to like get ready for it if you're like ever get in a management position or a leadership position and become a very effective and good leader. People one are going to want to work for you, and two, they'll trust you and they'll start asking questions about just life in general. Like I have all the time. I had one old Marine text me, "Hey, what do you invest in?" Like what? I was like ETFs, you know, S&P 500, you know, like the main stock things. Like you don't have to pick like just Tesla or just Apple. Like those are good stocks, but like ETFs is like all these stocks all rolled into one. He's like, all right, cool. Like just shit like that. Real estate, you name it. Like I have people come back and ask me questions all the time. Um, but yeah, that is it for our mastermind though. I think I have to go get my kid. Do we gotta go get Avery?
I'm going to Target with this one.
I'm going to get Avery, and she's going to Target with them.
Which is the best when the wife gets to go to Target alone.
No.
Oh my. Hey, Nate,
What's up, brother?
thank you very much. Very productive meeting. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you,
For sure,
Nate.
man.
This is awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I love doing these. This is leadership is my bread and butter for sure. If you guys ever have leadership questions ever, I've probably lived it, been there, done that. I've led well over 100 people in my Marine Corps career, if not more than that. But that's just like a good base number, and they're all different personalities. Like I got a kid from Thailand, got a kid from Puerto Rico, I got a kid from the Philippines. I got a kid from Haiti. I've got black, white, Mexican, you name the race, you name from anywhere in the country, Canadians. Like I've led every single one of them. And it's like everybody's a different person and leadership challenge. So it's like, if you have any questions, I'm always here. Always feel free to reach out.
You attract great people because I also appreciate your input too, Diego. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Right on.
All right, guys. You guys have a good night. And yeah,
All
stay
right. Thank
blessed.
you. Bye,
Sunday.
guys.
Yes, Sunday. I'll post the
Oh,
thing
yeah.
about a hike.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm coming this time.
You guys want to we'll do potato chip.
Oh.
Okay.
We'll do the front side of potato chip though.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do
You
the
can
front
do
side. It's a
it.
little longer, but more gradual.
Okay.
All right. I'll post it in the
Okay.
chat and I'll put like a group or drop the location for where we're gonna meet.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, guys.
All right. See ya.
Awesome. Thanks again. Bye, guys.
Yep.
Bye bye.
Bye.